there's a long number of kilometres where it does stay calm, it is going to be difficult. And again, you know, when you get yourself in this situation where Cavendish is, a lot of teams, you know, and a lot of riders back there, they are pretty cooked at this point. So, you know, they haven't got the energy to close it down, and they haven't got, you know, the real interest either. So you get caught in that situation, and it could be a one where we never see him to the front of the race again.
Yeah, just look at the demeanour in this group. It's completely different, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah, you can just see by the way in which that they're riding, their body language here, that the pressure is totally out of this group. You can see Wout Poels, Stevie Williams there on the right-hand side of the road just taking a bottle. So for me, it's day over for them.
That 2 minutes plus now, whilst the second group stands to get back on. John, let's have a brief homage poll, shall we, while we collect our thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's very nice. I have to be honest.
It's never good when he starts like that, is it?
Well,
that's poor.
You've got high expectations, Jono.
This is my 11th year doing the Tour, and I've got to be honest, this year's Tour art strikes me we're having a bit of a recession out there, because people don't seem to be investing as much in them. They've just lost a little bit of pizzazz, and that was another example of that. It might also have been a Masonic symbol, in which case I apologise massively.
I'm with you, John, on that one. You know, when you get to 8 or 10 tours, you're not as focused, you're not as energy-wise as you know, get into more and more tours. So
it's my debut, guys. I'm so excited. I'm loving everything that I'm seeing.
Danny's going, 10. It's a 10. It's another 10. Give it 20. Can I give it 20? No.
Exactly.
Okay, 10. Yeah, I know. The enthusiasm-wise, I think I've always been quite harsh on the French field art right from the beginning. It's just, yeah, I love the fact that so many people spend time to sell their region, and but it was still bland. All they'd done is they'd wrapped up hay bales in yellow. I mean, come on, you could do better.
Well, they're doing better in the second group because they're getting closer. 20 seconds now. A few accelerations in that group, as thankfully now L'Enfant Wilder is back on his own bike. But he finds himself much further back in the second group at 22 seconds. He should be getting a taxi ride to the front, but Israel Premier Tech aren't keen on it coming back. They've got Pascal Ackermann in this group. This Melissa bike we're briefly riding as well. Let's see what the plan is for Israel Premier Tech.
Hugo, I think it's good if you can ride. Can't hurt to help keep this away. It's good for us, good for GC, good for Pascal. We keep it steady in front. Don't let any more larger groups come back.
Well, Derek GC moves up already by virtue of Roglic and Ayuso. He's now 9th in the general classification. And of course, Pascal Ackermann is in that group. And well, Hugo Hull is down here in the southwest of France where he won his tour stage in Foix. He's working to try and keep it away, but he's probably going to need some help, Danny.
Yeah, he will, and that's what these riders are going to need, those strength in numbers when it comes to the finish. And just going back there to Israel Premier Tech with Ackermann, it's his debut and he's been super consistent, 2 third places. So for them, it is an ideal situation having both, you know, protected riders, you would say, in the GC in their option for today. They want to keep as many sprinters behind away as they can. But looking at this gap now, Rob, it does look to be coming back together.
They're just in a more exposed area, though, and they've moved up again on the left-hand side. The same is happening here. There's extra efforts being put into 2 groups, and you can just see they're fighting a little again. Wind doesn't look as strong, but it's still coming from the top of your picture there, Sean.
Yes, well, it is a little bit more open now than we had a little bit further back the road here. But we can see there they are coming back, and yeah, the front group certainly are not pushing on anything like we see in the very open sections there. So they are going to make it back in here, and yeah, just yeah, it'll be interesting to see now in this final. Is there more open sections to come? Direction of the wind, that'll be, you know, of major importance. And yeah, Israel riding on the front here at the moment. We heard from the team, keep on riding, but yeah, would you be better maybe to keep your men fresher and spare the energy as much as possible going into this final 40k?
That that was Decathlon riding with Oliver Nasser to try and bring it back. And we saw a brief shot there of someone getting dizzy in the name of French field art for Jonathan.
That looked really fun, didn't it? And also, I've got to mention that almost half the elevation of the stage is coming now in the last 40 kilometres. So we've already had an average of nearly 49 kilometres an hour for this stage. So it's been absolutely brutal for these riders. And on stage 13, so the fatigue levels are going to be high already. I think we're going to see so much action now in the last 40k.
Two groups at the front are back together. The Cavendish and Van der Poel group with Gaviria in it as well is now at 3 minutes 2 seconds and growing. So Uhl continues to ride. He is with Wilco Kelderman here, but it's a much bigger group now than Sean Kelly. If you're in any of the teams here, what are the tactics?
Just sit here, as we can see, UAE.
As they don't sit there because they're on the attack again.
Well, UAE are sitting here, and if you're a GC team, you just have to keep bossing the front of the peloton, as Visma Lisa Bike is doing also, although riding a bit more, but you're going to get the attacks. And, you know, this now terrain, by getting into it where, yeah, it's going to be a one where there are definitely teams and riders wanting to attack with this lumpy final 40k.
Jorgensen's chasing this one as we go to the Côte de Blochon.
Jonas Abrahamsen at it again as well, Rob, as I sign out and have my very late lunch and leave you to this exciting finale that we've got on our hands.
Bon appetit, as Jonas Abrahamsen is with Rasmus Tiller. Victor Kampenaerts is at it yet again. Jonas Abrahamsen's there, Matteo Jorgensen closing down, Ben Healy on his wheel. Then in the white and the yellow helmet, you can see that Tim Wellens is there. Lars de Plus is not far away, and rejoining us in the commentary box is Robbie McEwen.
I've been out there, Rob, taking deep breaths and getting ready to come in for the final 40. It's been deep breaths all day for the riders. What a stage, thanks to the wind.
Well, Sean Kelly, Martin Early, Sean Kelly, what about Ben Healy as well? Paul could be an Irish town again tonight.
Yes, well, this sort of terrain for Healy is not the perfect one, not difficult enough, but what they have been doing all day in this race, everybody is starting to feel the effects at this point in the race as well. He knows that there's a lot of tired bodies here, and you know, we have seen already EF Education. They had 3 men in that big break in the earlier part of the day, so they are a team who are going to continue on trying here.
Another issue for Ilan van Wilder. He's just adjusting his shoe there. Richard Carapaz decides to go on the attack. Jack Haig was trying to follow him, and Uno X, who started the latest party, make sure they're still invited.
Well, as Sean just said, a lot of tired legs and bodies. And in the years gone by, there have been surprising outcomes on the stage to Pau. The gateway to the Pyrenees, some riders thinking of what's to come. Well, sometimes the Pyrenees are behind you and they're even more tired. But the roads around Pau, they do lend themselves to attacks that maybe aren't quite textbook. We don't see often. They're late but well-timed, and the terrain lending itself to attacks like this.
The front door's punched open, the back door, the trap door's been open all day long. Bram Velten, the latest to fall through it, as Tobias Harlan Johannesson joins Richard Carapaz at the front. Not too far from the front of the race, this is Christoph going backwards, Groenewegen going with him. 87 is Danny van Poppel as well.
Yep.
Fast men are disappearing quickly.
Well, we said this at the top of the day. They may only be Category 4 climbs, but the likelihood... One thing's the fatigue that's already been accumulated, but with the crosswinds and the aggressive racing, it turns those Cat 4s into much harder propositions than they look on paper. And then we see then the efforts already made that the sprinters just living on the edge are now being tipped out of the group.
Any climb's hard when you ride it at 1,000,000 miles an hour, isn't it? And look at this 34 k's an hour uphill. Tobias Harlan Johannesson at his second tour. Came so close, didn't he, last year? Remember, he was first over the Tour, Malik. Third on the stage when it was Pogacar, followed by Vingegaard. That was Courtrai, a bit further up the road. Now then, this Melissa bike trying to do what Sean was talking about there and impose some control at the front. Looked like they were starting to get a little bit of help from UAE Emirates as well.
But also, the harder they can make things, the better it is for Wout van Aert. We just saw some of the sprinters going overboard in Christoph, Groenewegen, Danny van Poppel. Wout van Aert this is his sort of terrain. When it's hard, everybody's on the limit. Some are being just blown out of the group. Comes into his own.
We're at the hold on and hope stage of this stage. To be all honest, it's been like that since the off for a lot of riders with the wind blowing.
Arnaud Demar still part of that large group. Towards the back of it, you can see the stress he was under, the physical effort just to hold the wheel, let alone do anything about moving up or attacking. That's how hard this stage has been throughout. So there's still some fast men then. Biniam Girmay also still in the group, along with Jasper Philipsen.
Here is young Tobias Harlan Johannesson. Trains at home with his twin brother Anders. Both had to ride everywhere on bikes as they lived in the countryside when they were young, and of course the great autonomy given to Norwegian kids. They just went everywhere on their own. Started mountain biking after he realised he got quite good at it, and then turned up, started riding on the road bike, and pretty soon he won the Tour de l'Avenir. That was in 2021. He's got 4 pro wins to date. The biggest came on the final stage in Luxembourg last year.
Well, 2 riders off the front at the moment, still a controllable situation. What we've got to consider is not just the fast men that are in this front group, but what teammates have they got at their disposal? How many are they willing to use, wanting to save any of the rest for an eventual lead out? Michael Matthews just signalling to the team car for a bottle, and it looks like it's going to be up to Matthews to ride the sprint today, unless Dylan Groenewegen can claw his way back into the group and re-find his legs.
Che and Delia just acknowledging each other. I guess that at some point they've been working hard with each other to try and get in, and it's a strange sort of day. Everyone's trying to save themselves, and enemies can briefly become teammates. This is the race that's 15 seconds behind the 2 attackers, Carapaz and Johannesson. Matthews is the man right at the back. Delia's in here, of course. Girmay's in here, as we've seen.
Importantly for Wout van Aert, Christophe Laporte is still there, not sitting with the rest of the team right at the front, deeper in that peloton, but just sitting in the wheels, and he'll have a really important role to play for Wout van Aert later on. And I think that's really the sort of the factor that Wout van Aert is missing in these hectic bunch sprints. He's been getting himself boxed in. Others have been closing him down. To have the likes of Christophe Laporte to then provide a lead out, let him go from the front after what's been a really hard day, would be an ideal situation for Wout van Aert.
Groenewegen and company, that little group of sprinters we saw being dropped, is now at 40 seconds. It's around 25 seconds from the yellow jersey group.
With more climbing yet to come. They got dropped on that Cat 4. They're on the plateau now. They get a short descent in a couple of kilometres, and then straight up the next Category 4 climb.
On our way to Pau today, one of those places that forms a strong part of the Tour de France fabric. The 75th visit as either start or finish. Carapaz and Johannesson are on the attack. Johannesson for UNOX, yet to win a tour stage in now 1.5 tour appearances so far. The F Education Easy Post and Carapaz have had the yellow jersey already at this tour. As we come to Lombay, and the yellow jersey Tadej Pogacar is in that following group at 20 seconds. Vingegaard is there, Evenepoel's there, and if you're just tuning in, the big 4 have become the 3 musketeers today, because we are Rogless. I'm afraid Primož Roglic did not start following the injuries he sustained yesterday. No fractures, thankfully. Of course, 2 crashes in 2 days, and the morale taking a huge hit as well. 35 turned to 34 k's to go now. We're approaching a little descent here, and then we're on to our second and final classified climb of the day, but it's still up and down. It's that rugged terrain around Pau.
Yep, undulating roads, and they are now onto the descent. We just saw from that aerial shot the 2 men off the front were already onto that, into that left-hand bend on the descent. They get a roughly 2 kilometres downhill, around 6% gradient. So there's going to be a fast descent into the dip. Then it's about a kilometre on the flat before they hit the next Category 4 climb. That starts with 31 kilometres to go and tops out at about 28.7 at the actual KOM. Doesn't go straight downhill. It's again a small plateau before they get the next descent.
Just leaving Lombay, Jonathan.
Yeah, Rob, I just wanted to mention Lombay because in the notes we have from François Thomasou about cycling history, it mentions that Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle was born in Lombay, a man from southwestern France, but who made his name very much up on the cobbles. He won the Paris-Roubaix first time at the age of 38 and then won it a year later. And I just wonder, is Sean on air with us at the moment?
I think Sean's taken the opportunity that you're speaking to run out and visit the gentleman's room.
That's fair enough. I just wanted to know his memories of racing against Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle, but I can ask him another time.
So have a beer with him later. He'll regale you. The rest of our viewers might be able to find out if he's back in a moment when he calms down. Tish Benoot's time here. Groenewegen and company at 41 seconds from these leaders. They closed the gap actually to the yellow jersey group. But as Robbie was mentioning, more climbing to come.
Well, these two riders now onto that little flatter section, around 31 kilometres to go. It'll kick back up the next Category 4 climb. Again, not long, but a proper kicker. So this next climb, just under 2 kilometres long. The gradient's up to, it's an average of 6%.
It's the Côte de Simacourbe. Starts off easier and then the gradient does pick up. Maximum gradient of around 8%.
Yeah, officially 1.8 kilometres, 6.5%. Stays up on top briefly before the next descent. So almost a carbon copy of the last climb. Just slightly shorter, but a bit steeper.
Now, Elmore Reinders and Luc Durbridge are trying to help De La Groenewegen. McClay's in here, of course. He was with Arnaud Dimard yesterday. Well, still further up in the group. Christophe there as well.
So what we just spoke about is the problem for De La Groenewegen and his teammates. He just got dropped on the Cat 4. They can see the group just 20 odd seconds up the road in front of them, but they're just hitting the next Cat 4 with steeper gradients. So you wouldn't expect Groenewegen to be able to ride his way across. In fact, it looks like it'd be the opposite.
Let's go to Matt Stevens out there on the parcours. He's on the motorbike.
Me and my moto pilot, Jean-Marie, have just crested the final categorized climb of the day. It's on a big, wide, well-surfaced main road, in contrast to the lanes that we've been riding through. It's around 4 or 5%, just rolls up, and it's actually quite sheltered. It's exposed at the bottom. It's a little bit of a crosswind, but the wind has actually dropped right now. But it's going to be quite difficult, I think, for any splits to occur. It's just not steep enough. And with the wind, the little bit of wind that there is coming from the side and in the face, it's actually going to be quite a grippy climb. Hard to create any gaps. And we're now plunging off the other side. Again, another gradual descent, but a very big, wide, open main road. Back to the commentators.
Issues for Romain Bardet here. Just hearing from Matt there, looks like a gear issue. To be stuck in one of the harder gears. We're hearing from Matt it's going to be a harder climb than it would be anyway because of the wind as well. Certainly not the time to have that problem.
No, I mean, there's enough other hindrances out there on course other than having a mechanical. It's frustrating for Romain Bardet, but I think even for him, he's probably not considering this to be a chance of a stage win for him on this sort of terrain.
growing their gap. 28 seconds. With what's coming up at the weekend, Sean, how much in terms of resources will Visma Lease a Bike want to commit to bringing this back?
There definitely seems to be committed because they continue on to ride on the front, and yeah, they're not really thinking about tomorrow. It's all about today, getting safe through today's stage, and then when you get back to the hotel you think about tomorrow. But yeah, this is going to be a difficult one. 27 seconds for the two out in front, and when we get into the final it does flatten out a bit, and there'll be other teams who will want to, you know, ride and maybe get this back to a possibility of a sprint finish. And it's all about this group here with the yellow jersey. That's where the winner is going to come from. But you can see here, you know, they're continuing on to set this pace, but yeah, 29 seconds at the moment. I'm afraid it's going to be a difficult one for our two leaders to hold on.
Are we convinced that that's the sole reason Visma Lease a Bike are riding then? Just to protect Jonas Vingegaard? Or are they starting to think, well, if we commit, we can help Watt out here?
Well, it works both ways. You know, you continue on making the pace, but not a real, you know, killer of a pace. You keep control of the front of the peloton, and you also keep these guys from, you know, gaining too much an advantage. And that will entice the other teams here that want to, you know, get a sprint. They will come to the front when we get over this climb, and then we have another little small climb, uncategorized. It's probably, you know, a kilometre or 1,200 metres, and then there's another one a bit before the finish, but nothing major, nothing as what we're getting here. So get that out of the way with, and I think that's what they're thinking as well. Other teams will take it up, and yeah, then possibly, you know, give a chance to Wout van Aert in the sprint here. After the difficult day, of course, you know, he is always a danger one.
Just as you were saying that, Sean, Sylvain Dillier came to the front and started to help out as well for Alpecin de Koning. The point is going to go to Tobias Harlan Johannesson. And here's proof of what we were talking about. Matteo Jorgensen is up there as well. Benoit had been at the front. He just used his energy, which is very might have done. Van Aert sits much further back, waiting. Hindley and that group as well. He's now the best placed rider in the general classification for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, given that Vlasov and now Roglic have left.
And
Tom Pidcock in this group.
Sorry, Rob. 4 from Intermarché there, I can see, maybe a bit more than that. So, you know, they're going to as well. You know, in the end, when it comes very close to the final, they will also be there. And yeah, 26 seconds for our leaders. It is going to be a big ask for them to hold on out there.
This is exactly what Robbie McEwen said would happen as well. They're slipping further back. Groenewegen fighting. Good to see him fighting himself, trying to ride. 1:25 and slipping from the front of the race means a minute back from the rest of the group there. And with Dillier just riding probably to keep this in touch to help Philipsen, who's otherwise pretty isolated. But as Sean was pointing out, Binyam Girmay, he's going to have the help he needs to try and secure what would be a 4th stage win. And yesterday, Eritrea, by the way, as a nation, moved another step forward. They are now flying the flag for Africa, because they are, of all the African nations, the nation with the most Tour de France stage wins now. They moved ahead in front of South Africa.
Problem there for Stefan Bissegger. But as you were just saying, you know, the problem for Groenewegen and Christophe trying to come back is that the pace being set by Sylvain Dillier. Also, talking about Binyam Girmay, the thing is that he's keeping all his teammates that are there with him in the peloton, not sticking them on the front, trying to just keep everybody he's got at his disposal for the lead out at the moment.
We're approaching the final 25 kilometres of what has been a humdinger of a stage at this Tour de France. Stage 13, 2,000 metres of climbing, 165 kilometres in terms of the distance. Up and down now into Pau. We've had our 2 classified climbs. The climbing doesn't end there. Even a little rises in and around town. Anybody who knows, who has been to Pau, can see what it's like, the terrain. Of course, we're not yet in the Pyrenees, but they can be seen in the distance. The foothills, certainly. It's the gateway to the Pyrenees at this tour, as it is on many an occasion. 27 seconds for this yellow jersey group, including a few key sprinters, including the sprinter of this tour, Biniam Girmay. Two riders out the breakaway, Carapaz and Johannesson, just giving all they've got, and again, it's another hot one. Well, two riders committed now. They have to ride, and that is all they can do. Still blowing across the road everywhere. Carapaz is such an entertaining rider, isn't he, when he's out the GC? We saw it in the Vuelta a couple of years ago. He's just a proper racer.
He certainly is. You know, he's a rider that when he gets out in front, you know, he often manages to get something out of it and get a stage win. You know, we did talk about at the start of this race, he had a very good start, but not at his best because of his injury, you know, recent Tour of Swiss. And he always, you know, gives it a try. When you look at the situation at the moment, just inside the 25 kilometres, and when you look at the time he went in the attack, a lot of riders, I think, have the legs back in the peloton, but they say, oh yes, this is a final now where it's going to be difficult, and they just sit back and wait and wait. He's not that sort of rider. He will try, even against the odds, and you know, this one is a bit against the odds when you see him striking out here, when you look at what's happening back in the peloton and the teams that are continuing on to set the pace here. 30 seconds advantage. It is going to be a big ask for him and his breakaway companion Johansson to stay out in front here.
31 seconds. It's in the gutter behind, but as you can see, it's not consistently exposed here. This is the unclassified climb coming up.
The ones that hurt more than the actual classified climbs quite often.
That because you're not expecting them, or you don't get anything in terms of a reward?
You just, well, you're not expecting it as much. I mean, you know the course, you know Cat 4, and you can tend to forget. You might know it's a little bit undulating, and then you get on something that looks like it should have a number atop it on the profile, signifying its inclusion in the KOM competition. Just doesn't have it. It seems to hurt more.
Well, you have in your head, you know, 2 climbs today. You get over the second climb of the day, you say, oh God, I'm over it now, and it's going to be not too difficult to the finish. And then, as you say, you arrive to another one, and it's almost as hard as the previous categorized climb.
Yeah, you certainly don't get there and go, yay, I got one for free.
Sylvain Villiers at the front when we saw there. Christophe Laporte.
Big group, some
There's an
95
acceleration though
riders.
now. There's an acceleration now with Victor Campenarts. You could just see it from the helicopter changing. Dillier is done for. He's out the back. This is Campenarts. Delis's there. And it seems as though Delis wants to either get rid of or blunt the legs of anybody else around.
There goes
and there
Dillier.
we go. Dillier done.
I mean, it's amazing to think that Arnaud Delis may have asked his teammates to ramp things up. He's been in the break from the start of the day, making major contributions to the pace setting in that break, along with the likes of Mathieu van der Poel and all the others that were in that group. Still punching on now, and probably just trying to maybe get rid of a couple more. But you look a little bit further back, Brian Coquard is still there. Pascal Ackermann, who, for quite a big muscular guy, gets over a terrain like this really quite well. We know that Girmay and Philipsen are still here and signalled in this group. I've seen on the list, yet to confirm him by sight, but I've seen the name of Carapaz, teammate of Biniam Girmay, still here too. The Belgian sprinter from the Intermarché squad, but I doubt he'll get to do his own thing this afternoon.
So it's an effort from Lotto Destiny. Yes, they could reduce the number of opponents, Sean, but I doubt they're going to get rid of Girmay. He's climbing better than any other sprinter there. climbing better than some climbers, to be honest.
Yes, while they're not going to get rid of any of the main sprinters, I think they are pretty, comfortable enough here. And you look at the situation, the break out front. Carpenter's, the way he rides, sometimes you'd question what the tactic is, because what you need to do is, contribute with the rest, keep your men there, and make sure you get back. But you can see the way it's coming down now. It's coming down quickly. But when you get into a situation in the end, you need to keep your teammates as fresh as possible within reason, and to control it in the end. And that is the problem you're going to run into in this final 22 kilometers. If you run out of manpower, then you could find yourself having to make efforts that you do not want to make before you get to the final sprint.
Ackerman, Fanart, Coca, all still looking very good, and they're just the ones we can see on the picture.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Deli. I mean, he always looks like he's wrestling it. He's strong enough to wrestle just about anything, but he just looks like he's spending a lot of energy sitting where he is at the moment. Not doing a turn on the front, but catching still a fair bit of wind.
Yes, catching way too much. I agree there 100%. You have to sit back a bit and just get all the shelter you can. And in the middle of the group there, in 15th or 20th position, if a team, the orders is to ride and keep the pace real high, you just hide as much as possible. When you can see him on our TV screens, well, then you have your nose in the wind, and that's where you're, you say, buffing the wind, eating the wind.
Well, these two have been hitting a lot of wind. They're about to be caught. It's gone down to 8 seconds. You can see a few other riders starting to move up. Green jersey sitting down towards the back this time, but he's not got one thing wrong yet at this tour.
Still plenty of pressure on this race, though, when you see the line towards the back half of this group, how they're strung out and just scrambling to follow the wheel and get themselves back into that bubble of the big group and find some real shelter.
Johannesson wants to carry on. And that's that for Carapaz. Good luck handing out the combativity prize today, by the way. You've got a million options to choose from, I think. By the way, Groenewegen and company, as we saw, the demeanour had gone 3 minutes already now. They are finished. It is this group that is going to give us the stage winner today as we're approaching the final 20 kilometres. Johannesson, Cook were all back together. It's Campenaerts, Vochils, and a couple of other teammates working for Arnaud Dely.
I've got an idea for the Combativity Award for today. Let them all ride with the red number tomorrow, the entire peloton. It's been that sort of day.
Sensational, hasn't it? Kilometres remain. Now, who takes it up here? A look along, a chat with Dely. This Melissa bike bring Matteo Jorgensen back to the front. There's Wilco Kelderman, who's joining them as well. Jonas Vingegaard still with Christophe Laporte and Wout van Aert, who'll be hoping to win the stage today. But he will have
we got this.
Sits and waits. We know too that Arnaud Demar has hung on and he's here. Dely at the front. Philipsen, although he's a little isolated. Michael Matthews is in this group as well. We've got plenty of riders who can still contest the finale with a fast finish.
We've seen a few of the sprinters dropped, but there's still plenty of them here. I just spotted Jasper Philipsen moving his way back towards the front on the right-hand side of the peloton. But Biniam Girmay is content to sit a little bit further back, keep cruising.
Been a great day for Decathlon. They tried to bring it back. Of course, they've got Gal in here, but no Sam Bennett.
That was always going to be the danger earlier on. I mentioned it earlier in commentary. When that big group was away, if you committed a sprint team, if they committed to chasing that and spent a lot of energy bringing it back, there was still the very real danger of missing the next big split in the crosswinds. That's happened to quite a few of them. even if you survive that, then going out the back when they hit these Cat 4s, which have just become inherently harder due to the pace of the racing today.
All across the front here. There we go. This sort of undulating terrain. I was just waiting for the next thing to develop. It's not been quiet. Sean calls it. It's a Total Energy rider going, and a rider from Lidl Trek chasing, and Lotto Destiny don't want to mess about. Sturven left-hand side. And this is absolutely incredible. Kelderman will now chase this one as well.
Well, Jasper Sturven, he came so close to the stage victory on stage 9 in Troyes, the gravel stage, attacking with, what was it, 8-9 kilometres to go off the last sector of gravel, being caught within the final kilometre. He's got a fast finish on him, but he knows there's still too many fast men left here for a realistic chance at a stage win if he waits for a sprint. And he's got to use the terrain when it's available to go, try and find the right moment. I just think from now that they're over the worst of those categorised and uncategorised climb. There's one more little pinch to come, but it's only 1.3k at 2.5% average. I've got to hand it to him for trying, but I don't give this one a massive chance of getting really clear and staying away.
Sean, this is what Lidl Trek have to do though now, don't they? Because there's no Mars Pearson, of course they've lost Tim de Klerk. They do have Ciccone up there, but they've got to try, they've got to attack, they've got to try and get what they can. Brent van Moer's come across, as has Fabien Grelier.
Yes, well, you have to try, and you know, we've seen already the man went in the attack there, Stuyven. They know that the company they're in here, it is not going to be possible for them to get anything to start shouting about at the end of the stage, so why not try? But you know, when you see Visma Lisa bike, they have been just controlling there when they need to do. They ride on the front, keep that tempo, and not allow the breakaway, the previous one, to get away and get out of control, and they're doing the same with this one here. So it's going to be difficult, and now we're getting into the final 20 kilometres, and we will see, you know, more of these teams that has the fast men in this leading group here, the group of the yellow jersey. They will start to contribute as well. So for anybody to get out over this sort of terrain, if you had a few climbs, you know, inside the final 10 kilometres, then 4 category climbs, that's where a good attack, strong riders might be able to go. But over this final section of the parcours today, it's not going to happen.
Now, you know what I'd like to see Jasper Sturven do with his speed that he's got? He's been the lead-out man for Mads Pedersen while he was still in the race. I'd like to see Jasper Sturven be conservative through to the final kilometres and make an all-or-nothing late attack in the streets of Pau. Think of Yellow Nadam back in the late 80s, early 90s, Vyacheslav Ekimov, the way he used to try and blast away in the last couple of kilometres. I think that's the sort of effort that really suits a Jasper Sturven, rather than 18 kilometres to go and try and just outpower a field with still plenty of domestiques in it. Wait till longer, they're all under pressure, and then strike late and hard.
Jasper Sturven is with Brent van Moer and Fabien Grelier, as we mentioned. Grelier already been on the attack very early on, which was nothing more than the television attack, was it, on the way to Turin. Here he is at the minute, looking for something more, but as gents are explaining, it's difficult this. 8 seconds. You know all about Jasper Sturven, monument winner. It was close to champagne and chocolates the other day, wasn't it, for him? Inside the last kilometre in the Champagne region, the chocolatier from Leuven. He's with Brent van Moer, who is rooming with Victor Kampenaerts this year. He's the new co-presenter of the daily vlog that they're doing. It is absolutely hilarious, that thing.
Very good, Jake. Very good, Jake. G. Pascal. Come on, guys. You guys are good. We win this race today. Come on, guys.
Steve Bauer on the radio for Israel Premier Tech, the Canadian, talking through the radio at Derek G and everyone else. They want to try and win with Pascal Ackermann. They did a little bit of riding there, but they're off the front. Keep your eyes too on Uno X, as I have a feeling that Søren Varnesholt might still be in here as well, even though we saw Alexander Kristoff in a little bit of trouble before. And there is Søren Varnesholt, number 208 on his back. He is a fast finisher.
He's had his struggles in this tour, Søren Varnesholt. I had expected him on a couple of occasions to sort of show up and challenge, at least make top 10s. but he's just been not quite himself, not the man we saw with the power that won him the recent Tour of Belgium. As Jasper Stuyven makes another acceleration, which gets rid of Grenier. The man from Total Energie is gone.
There is no doubt about the power that Stuyven has. He is in fantastic form at this Tour.
And that's why I said I'd like to see him do it a little bit later. I think there's just
and the
so
attacks
much
continue because nobody's in control. Sorry, Robbie, but we go. It looks as though it's Kungnis who's having a go. Intermarché go after this one, Sean, because they know we're getting closer and closer and closer to the moment that it could be another sprint for Girmay.
Yes, and we can see there it looks like Zimmerman isn't taking it up here, and he also keeps the pace on the front after closing down Stefan Kung. So now they're getting the information. 14 seconds and just inside the 15 kilometers to go. They need to also contribute a little bit here and make sure you get it down to a sprint, because after doing all this hard work, I mean staying in the peloton with Girmay, keeping your teammates there as much as possible, you have to make sure you take it back and don't leave it get into a panic situation in the final number of kilometers where they're just out there and maybe they might go all the way to the finish. Be sure and just start riding early, as we can see a lot of other teams doing the same.
We've got just under 2 kilometres to the last little climb of the day, unclassified, and it's only very short. It's approximately 1.3 kilometres, 2.5 to up to 3%, but could be a springboard for someone to make an attack out of this large group and try and go across to the group of Stuyven and Van Moer.
Difficult to make the move when the pace is on the front, but it's these little let-ups here as Marnus Kort was riding. Now he's on the radio. Laporte's there having a quick conversation with Jorgensen, and now Zimmerman decides that he has to pull through again.
Yeah, now Intermarché starting to make their move at the front and contribute to the pace-making, seeing what's going on with all the other teams, the reluctance for anybody to use up resources that can be used in a lead-out as they're in the final couple of kilometres, but they know the power of both of these men, but especially Jasper Stuyven, and you can't give him too much. But 13 kilometres to go with a 15-second gap, the power is in the hands of what's left of this peloton.
13 Ks to go. Brent Van Moer, who's at the front. You think back a few years, a Mark Cavendish stage win in 2021, and it was heartbreak for Van Moer, who was caught right at the end, very late on, inside the final kilometre, as Cavendish and the rest of the sprinters, who then couldn't get beyond the Manxman, called him. He's sitting on the wheel here of Stuyven. Into a headwind at the minute. Look at the pace they're travelling at uphill. It's almost 50 k's an hour. They had been frighteningly good today, all the way through the peloton.
Yes, and a frightening pace as well. I think it was looking just a time back there. There was about 12 minutes approximately ahead of the fastest time on the race manual, 47. And it's not surprising the way they've been racing all the way through the day. And you can see the pace they're going. And, there's no let up here. There's a stage up for grabs. And, yeah, these guys, that's what you've got to do. You've got to really dig deep here, and the two men out front, they are digging really deep to hold on to this advantage.
Well, Brent Van Moer, he is the ideal man for Jasper Stuyven to have with him. Two similar size riders, both with a lot of power. Yep, Bergodeau, they've had Grenier there. He's been ridden out of the wheel. So the counter-attack, Christophe Laporte now following from Visma Lease bike. So interesting to see him make the jump, where you might have thought he'd just save himself for Wout van Aert and for a lead-out.
Surely he'll sit on, won't he, if he gets up here? Let's see. Björgård's the one with the attack. Behind, it is splitting, it's fracturing, and that's the danger when you don't have too many men to keep the pace up and work.
Well, that's the thing too. There seems to be enough men, but they're just nobody's prepared to use them yet.
And I think as well, everybody is feeling the effects of this real difficult stage once again at this point in the race. Yeah, there's a lot of riders here. They're feeling the legs, and you're just waiting. You're looking at other riders to pull on here, and it's just a waiting and looking game, as you say, Robbie.
Well, look how quickly the junction's made. Laporte,
four of them. across there. Laporte just sitting on Robbie.
Yep.
One rider trying to come across. Six seconds. Israel Premier Tech trying to take control. You've got a couple of riders at DSM maybe waiting to jump. Bram Belton's out the back. We know that there's no Jakobsen in the race.
Is that Guillaume from Cofidis?
Yep, Brian Coquard still in this group, so Cofidis keen to shut things down.
It's Bjorgård who's pulling out here. Starting to get memories of that Paris-Nice stage win. He really did announce himself on the scene and surprise us all that day. He's attracted a bit of, I would say, pretty naughty poking fun of him from opposing teams. Don't know if he's done up something to upset, but there were a few posts over the winter that were saying, oh, now he's got the facial hair. He's just like a wannabe Alaphilippe. Tell you what, if he gets a few Alaphilippe-style results, that'll quieten down, won't they?
Wouldn't it ever?
Sorry, Rob. If he can ride like Alaphilippe, the last time we were here in Po, he will go a long ways in this final. But yeah, this guy's, you know, we see him in the earlier part of the stage. He seemed to get cramps or something. He was in that big move, and then suddenly, you know, he was sitting up a bit and looked like he had got a cramp. But he is really going for it.
Well, that's it. They just want to attack and open up the race. Cause chaos.
Let's see if they can just create themselves an opportunity. They don't have a sprinter, so they're not looking to save themselves for the final kilometre of this race and try and spring us a prize in a sprint. They've just got to make it happen. And if you don't go, you don't know. The chances are slim, but you've got to try.
10 kilometres to go now, and it's Kampanats again who comes to the front, and this time Wout van Aert is right at the wheel. Michał Kwiatkowski is there as well. Derek G up in fourth place, and of course when he's there, they all follow. Tadej Pogačar wants to be at the front. Also behind him, right on the wheel, in fact, is Santiago Buitrago, and Jonas Vingegaard has a man not far away from him in the shape of Matteo Jorgensen. 9 Ks to go. Wout is riding. Here we go.
Got us excited for a second there. Wout van Aert with a few harder pedal strokes.
A fast, furious finish on the way in. Little bits of tailwind downhill. It's exactly as it's been all day long. Victor Kampanats trying to sneak away. He's got Arnaud Delis here as well to try and follow and win any sprint. Derek G is there, not too far away for Israel Premier Tech. He also has Pascal Ackermann. Wout van Aert is following, is ready, is watching. Tadej Pogačar right at the front where he needs to be, as he's been all day. This is Johannesson, that is Costa. Soler also there being dropped at that moment is Frank van den Broek. He can be forgiven. He was in that 22-man move that was up the road earlier on today. We're 8 kilometres from the line, and there's still a sense of this could be absolutely anything.
Well, that turn from Victor Kampanats, rather than trying to sneak away, I think he just thought, I'll do a really big turn and I'll just give everybody the signal that I've got the power to bring everything back together whenever I want.
And here we go. It's the second move from Jasper Stuyven.
And Laporte straight on it, so marking the moves, Christophe Laporte. We sort of get across to the last one and not offer a turn. And Stuyven, I was wondering if he'd be recovered for maybe a late move. He recovered really quite quickly, at least in his own head, to make a move. Now, with 7.5 kilometres to go, if I was his team director, I'd be in his ear. Say, if you've got absolutely anything left, save it now. Go just outside a kilometre to go.
Small group sneaking away there. Keep your eyes on that. If they could get together, if they could work, this would be danger for those chasing. One gap is quickly turned down, and then you can see the long line should be coming back here. It's led by Alberto Bettiol right now. The yellow jersey is there. He is Tadej Pogačar, and there's a problem for Rasmus Tiller, which in turn could cause a problem for Søren Vardenskjold, because Tiller would be leading him out.
Yeah, he would be. He would have been the man to try and launch Søren Vardenskjold, who's riding his way up towards the front now. Visma Leasebike taking control at the front now for Wout van Aert. Jonas Vingegaard finding his own way around a little bit. And what he really needs to do is just keep a very close eye on Tadej Pogačar. And if he stays near him, then he should be safe. But he's just popping himself now right at the front.
There was a Movistar move there, just out of your picture, just off to the right now as you look at it. It will be followed. and it's Nelson Oliveira, it seems. Magnus Kort is the most combative rider of the day. We saw Geraint Thomas just losing control and contact. His job for the day done, and a really important one to bring back Carlos Rodriguez in that early split. Move from Movistar is returned back to the peloton. 6 kilometers to go. We're on our way to Pau. It's going to be the 75th time it's been a start or finish on the Tour de France. There's Melissa Bike with plenty of jerseys at the front. Total Energy, keep your eye on them on the left-hand side. We know they want to cause chaos. Is there another move coming? Biniam now moves up. He's been waiting. He's been following. He's been hiding. Now he puts himself into the right position, going up into the final 5 kilometers, and we know that he is so good at that. And in these sprints, he's been more or less unbeatable.
Well, let's see who have we got here. As far as the fast men who have survived: Philipsen, Biniam Girmay, Wout van Aert, Arnaud Demar, Pascal Ackermann, Brian Coquard. Who else has popped themselves up there yet? Matthews, and he also has Luka Mezgec with him. Mezgec's quite capable of running inside, I would say, top 6 as well in a sprint amongst these sort of guys. Deli still here, of course. We've seen him all day long in the front of the race. Question is, what does he have left in the legs for a sprint finish?
Riders making their way in towards the back. There is Joao Almeida. It's now Tish Benoit putting the pressure and the piling it on. 5 kilometers to go now on our way into the centre of Pau. Little trek with screens there. This now is Jorgensen who takes it up through the roundabout. It narrows here, but it's a smaller peloton, this one, than the full lot that we've seen coming in to contest the finish in the last few days.
And we're getting into this more technical now in the final number of kilometers here. This is where you have to be in the good position, not on the front for the moment with your team, but certainly, you know, keep to the front of affairs. Although it's a smaller bunch here, this is going to be an important run. And you can see, you know, there's a lot of teams just waiting off here and holding. Is it the fatigue, or is they thinking, okay, we have to just keep as fresh as possible for the final run and give our man a good lead out?
Well, most teams are missing probably half of their riders, so you're missing those chains, those links in the chain of a lead-out train, so you need to wait longer. There's the fatigue of the race is an element. You want to keep it shorter. You don't have as many men to use, but you also don't have an entire peloton that requires quite the same sort of intensity as a normal bunch sprint, but they can be very tricky about getting yourself caught in. There's a lot of riders who'd be starting to think, I'm not really a sprinter, but in this sort of group, this sort of fatigue, I'm prepared to have a go at it.
Everybody's looking for the wheel of Biniam Girmay. He was following Philipsen. Matthews was going to him. The Lee moves up as well. There's Girmay, moves up to find his team. A little bit of a lean there. Both of them going together. Christophe Laporte was there.
Yeah, Laporte just thought, I'll just move him out of the way. And Biniam Girmay says, haven't you heard? This green jersey gives me extra power. Shift it.
Arnaud Demar is moving up as well. 164 now is on the wheel of his teammate. Had 2 teammates with him. Vauquelin moving up to try and help him. On the left-hand side, it's Abramson who's moving again. And this man has no off button. Jonas Abramson, over 750 kilometers in the break before today. And yes, he was in the break again today. He's got a gap. There are 3 kilometers to go. Now, is there enough firepower to chase him, Sean?
Well, we can see here it's Pollard on the front here, and you know, the GC teams are the ones. If it wasn't for the GC teams, he got, you know, that 10 seconds advantage. He would be a difficult one, but look at the way he's going here, and you know, the teams immediately they realise Lotto Dynasty wanting to not allow this one to get any advantage.
Yeah, Lotto Destiny, and is that Brent van Moer, the man who was with Jasper Stuyven leading the chase. Arnaud Deli in his wheel. Then it's Nils Pollitt with Tadej Pogacar behind him. Philipsen right in the middle on the wheel of a teammate. Girmay just coming up on the right-hand side with a man in front of him. He has Lawrence Rex in this group as well.
Latest roundabout out the way. Big turn coming up just before a kilometre to go, and then there's little rights and lefts. It's back now for Abramson, And it's Andermatt with Turniser, who will not want to go yet, but he's just keeping Girmay right up there. 2Ks to go now. Another man, 2 men coming up on the left-hand side to help out.
Now in control, Andermatt. They've still got one rider. He tried to come forward with his teammate, hasn't made it, but they're 3 in a row for Biniam Girmay. Right on the wheel now of Girmay, slotting in. Jasper Philipsen in the dark grey. Tadej Pogacar out to the right next to Philipsen, more or less. Yes, right next to him. Pascal Ackermann trying to come forward and take up a position that allows him to go for the win. No time for GC riders in between you and your sprint rivals now. It's time for them to get out of the way.
Big left turn coming up, and Andermatt keeping the speed as high as they can to keep Girmay in the right position. On the right, you can see the European champion, Christophe Laporte. He's moving up. Wout van Aert, who's on the wheel.
Well, not a bad day, considering
they lose position briefly, but
well, that's our highest 5-minute.
There is that run into the final kilometre now, and Sean Kelly at Andermatt who have control.
Yes, they have control, but still a kilometre to go, and you know, we can see a lot of good sprinters here, the fast men in contention here. In this smaller group, not as hectic when it's the big bunch sprints, so it's an interesting one, but Andermatt in control.
750 metres to go, left turn, and look at the speed on the left-hand side with a massive crash. That's a huge crash, and down is De Lee. Massive problems there. Nave made the split at the front, and Van Aert is in the game here. He's in the perfect position.
Almost. I can get some shoes.
You can see behind there's an opportunity for Nikias Arndt. He's there for Bahrain. Coming up now to the final 300 metres. Behind, the yellow jersey follows on. Of course, you can see the move on the right. There it is. It's Philipsen coming through. It's Wout van Aert though. Philipsen now hits the front, and this time Girmay looks boxed out. It's Jasper Philipsen going all the way. Wout van Aert's on his wheel.
We are booked.
Trying to get there on the right hand side. You can see that it's Ackermann, but it's Girmay out the way, and at the front it's Philipsen that holds on. That was a real mess, but it's Jasper Philipsen who wins for the second time at this Tour de France. And the move from Lotto Destiny that caused carnage on the far side.
It looked like Case Bol that went down as well in that crash, but Christophe Laporte, he had Wout van Aert in the wheel, and he swung off outside 300 metres to go, left Van Aert completely stranded on the front. But Jasper Philipsen from long range yesterday, he was way out of it. From 20th, made his way up to 6th with a long range sprint. Today, he was close enough to the front. Long range didn't matter to him. Got himself across to the barriers as well, but didn't hinder anybody and held off Wout van Aert as he surged back towards the front, and Philipsen gets his second. Finally, someone else has doubled up in this tour.
See y'all tomorrow for another hellish ride. I need to eat more before these, but whatever.
But of course, 5 kilometres safe zone today. The lead down, and Sean, you predicted a little bit of unpredictable chaos.